What's up, everybody? Gentleman94 here. Welcome back to another episode of Ben Builds. Today, though, we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be doing a tutorial. So I've been lucky enough to receive a couple of requests from some of my subscribers that are interested in how I have built certain things and how I've done certain stuff with my models. I'm in no way near a professional. These are just kind of things I've come up with, things I've tried, things I've seen other people do. So we're going to talk today about the idea of scratch building. Now, the reason I have my Stug out here on the table is because I had a request from Huntercraft, one of my YouTube subscribers, to show how I built these little ammo boxes that I was going to have sitting here somewhere on the tank for shells to be basically being pulled out of. And I thought I would kind of give you a little tutorial about how I made these boxes, and that's going to naturally lead into the idea of scratch building. So I thought I would do a little bit about scratch building. Some things to think about, some ideas, some methods. None of this is 100% foolproof, guys. Everyone has their own ideas about how to do certain things with model building. None of them are really wrong. They're just a different approach. So first things we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about how we take styrene and make it into something like this. Simple little box. So not every model kit has everything you want in it. A lot of model kits these days are really nicely molded. They have very fine recessed panel lines. They look great. The detail is getting excellent. The problem is you don't always have everything you want in your kit. Now, aftermarket kits are available where you can buy certain things like resin or photo etch, where you can spruce up your kit and raise that level of detail up to an acceptable level for your particular build. Well, with certain things, you don't need to go out and purchase a gigantic upgrade kit for your model. You don't need to go out and buy a bunch of resin inserts. Sometimes photo etch does help, guys, but you don't always need to buy it. In fact, sometimes you're just as well off making it yourself. And that's the idea of scratch building, making something out of what you have to spruce up your kit without spending a whole bunch of money. So we're going to talk a little bit about how I go about scratch building stuff, because I do enjoy scratch building. In fact, let me show you a couple examples. I'm going to pull out this model right here. And this is the Academy 1/48 scale Messerschmitt 109D. Actually, it's like a B through D kit. You can build the B, C, or D. Now, the kit itself is a decent little kit. It's not really anything to get too excited about. So the BF109 here has a few little scratch-built details on the kit itself. First things, you can't really see it. I apologize for this. But inside the opening right here, I scratch-built some grills, just with little strips of styrene. Also, on the side of the aircraft here, I added a little bit of a raised, reinforcing strip of some sort. I added that in because, well, it didn't have it on the kit, so I added that in, built it up a little bit. Some stuff on the inside really you can't see, and it's not really that important, but I actually added in the very back of the cockpit, I added a little bit of a hatch door, because the 109s had a little bit of a storage compartment right behind the pilot seat that you could actually open up and put stuff in and close it back up. So I added that in there. It's difficult to see, but I know what's there. So that's just very basic scratch building. You take some styrene, you cut the strips that you need, the length that you need them, you can glue them on. Nothing more than that. Then you can do something a little more complicated, like here. This is my 105 that I'm currently working on. I will finish this eventually. But the bomb rack. That simple little bomb rack down there, all it was about 3 or 4 pieces of styrene that were meshed together, glued down. Even the reinforcing strips I have down here, those also strips of styrene. It's the idea of scratch building. I didn't have that pylon. I needed to have it, so I scratch built it. Now, something that is even more complicated than that is actually here on my FJ Fury. This is an FJ4 Fury. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of play around a little bit and make stuff. Now, the Fury has a lot of detail in the rear decking behind the cockpit. This kit, for some reason, didn't have any of that. So, probably not going to be able to see it. But the wire I scratch built, the rear back there, I scratch built. I also scratch built this section right in here. And this is the ammo bays. I've scratch built all of those, scratch built the interior of the little flap there. And I made these, actually, because they have little hooks and little handles on them. I made those from kit parts that I pulled out of my Lag 5. I also lengthened the landing gear and added a rear tail skid. A little bitty piece right there. It's a tail skid. I just added it. So You can do some crazy stuff. This is all scratch built. So this, I cut this out of the model kit. I opened it up. I took these little ammo boxes. I shaved them down. And then I scratch built a little box that fit just in there. I set it in. And that was it. It was good to go. And then this here, I just took strips of pieces of styrene and cut and pulled some wire and stretched this wire out. And it was done. It was good to go. So you can kind of see it in there. It's not the greatest of shots. I assure you I will be eventually getting a better camera. But you can kind of get an idea. So you can do stuff like that with scratch building. You can do some amazing things. Then, of course, we have our ammo boxes, which kind of inspired the whole thing here. So first things you're going to need, references. You have to have references here, guys. You have to know what these things look like that you're going to be building. I use a lot of the internet searches. I also use books about how to model certain things. For example, Osprey makes a really cool line called just Osprey Modeling. I have 2 books here that I have used in the past. 109. Actually, I used this book when I built this guy. And it goes through all the parts you need, everything you could possibly want, goes through some real detail stuff. And see, that right there, that's how it looks. You get a little white strip. That's your styrene. You can build things out. You can insert things. I also copied this idea here of actually making grills and things. You can do all of that with scratch building. And that's kind of a really fun part about the model. But books like this, they give you shots of maybe, something like a resin kit that you may have purchased. Now you can recreate some of this if you were really interested in doing it. You can recreate it with scratch building. You can't do everything. Like this little bit right there, that curved piece. That might be difficult to do. But you can easily make, for example, that right there. I made that on mine. Not hard. Just take a piece of styrene, made about that shape, cut it out, matched it, made sure it was in scale, and glued it on. No problem. Sidewalls, ribbing, you can do all that sort of stuff too. It's just a good thing to have, so you can use it as references. So, highly recommend Osprey. Another one I have that I use is this one here. This is modeling the Mitsubishi Zero, the A6M. The reason I have this, and I don't actually have a Zero model kit that I can show you, but the reason I have this is because it goes through some really, really cool methods of adding internal ribbing on fuselages. The inside of fuselage are usually going to be filled with ribbing, meaning you're going to see the support beams and support braces that everything is riveted onto. So this goes through all of the how to super detail a Zero, but you can use the same ideas and you could kind of transpose them because it's the same type of idea. It's the same procedures, the same thought process here. I mean, look at this. This is absolutely amazing work, and this is scratch built. You scratch built some of this, and that's just awesome. All the wiring things, scratch built, probably stretched sprue, maybe some metal wire, fuse wire. You can do some crazy stuff with scratch building, and it really is a lot of fun, especially when you actually build something and you get down to it and you look at it and go, wow, that looks amazing. I like how that looks. It's a pretty good feeling. You can see even right here, this is a good example. Ribbing, internal ribbing on aircraft. That's going to be kind of an easy thing to do with styrene, with strips of styrene. So another thing you do is scratch building. You add a little bit of detail where otherwise no detail would exist. So Osprey modeling, great series. You're also going to want to find reference shots of the real deal. Now you can do that usually online. For example, when I was looking at ammo boxes here for my Stug, I went online and I searched ammo boxes and I found a couple of pictures of the real versions, and I was able to kind of get an idea of how they were put together. It looked like they were wood. They had support beams going across the top of them, and they had kind of this little built-up section on the inside that the ammo, the shells would rest on when they were stacked inside the box. And now I should have probably scribed the inside and the outside of this, but I didn't get that detailed with it. I wanted just the idea of it because it was going to be hidden by some other material on top of it. So I didn't go as full blown as I could have gone, but the idea is still sound. So let's get into the actual supplies that you're going to need. First thing you're going to definitely want to get is some styrene. This is evergreen scale model styrene. This is plain. This is 0.4 millimeters thick. And I bought this. It comes in a nice little sheet package here. On the back, you have your basic styrene techniques: cutting, cementing, painting, weathering, how to make a wood grain. Now, a lot of these guys will take this and they'll make wood paneling, or they'll make, walkways for train modeling, stuff like that. Down the bottom here, you have a scale conversion chart, and I'm using 0.4, which is right here, so approximately 1/25th scale. I don't know if that's necessarily true because, yeah, it looks pretty good for what I need it to go for like 1/35th scale, 1/48th. Next thing you're going to need, well, you're going to need some X-Acto knives. You're going to need a nice, sharp X-Acto knife. A couple of different types of blades would be handy. This is a nice square profile blade that you can press straight down to cut, to chop, and this you can use to slice. Make sure to have X-Acto knife blades as well, guys. You can also use the larger box cutting blades, but I find I don't have very good precision with these, but feel free to use these if you have them. You're going to need a pin vise, guys. You're going to need to be able to scribe or to poke holes through the styrene. You're going to need a pin vise. This I don't actually have my bit chucked in the back of this, but I do have a drill bit that I do use for drilling into, say, gun ports or any sort of locating pins. I do use that drill bit for a lot of stuff, but I don't have it in right now. I took it out. It's in my modeling case. And then, of course, you're going to need your needle, the other end of this, and you're going to use this to go ahead and to scribe. This is a little long for my liking. I like it to be a little shorter so it doesn't flex as much, because it will flex when you're, when you're scribing, it'll flex, which eventually will snap. But I'm just kind of showing you the idea here. You're going to need some templates. It's a good idea to have a couple of templates lying around. I have this one here that I use for circles and different odd shapes. And I have this one here that I use just for the straight edge metal and for if I'm making any sort of, curved or lines or anything like that. These are artist templates. I got these when I was working construction. I was an estimator for a while, so I had these for details, stuff like that. But yeah, this is a good thing to have. You always kind of want to have some form of templates or scribing templates, something like that. Of course, you're going to need to be able to clean this up, so you're going to need some files. These are my standard jeweler files that I've been using through almost any build I've been doing. And that's pretty much the basic stuff you need. Now, you can do everything you need with just this material. You really can. But it doesn't hurt to have a set of flesh cuts and maybe some scissors. Because especially if you're cutting large swaths of styrene, you're going to want something to be able to just slice that and cut that off. So I'm just going to kind of show you a rough idea about how I built this guy. And this guy is, my ammo box here. So we're going to kind of start off with some already pre-cut pieces of styrene. Just throw some of these out there here. Okay, so we use that and we use that. Okay, so how did I make these little ammo boxes? Well, this is a same type of procedure you can use through anything you scratch build. Get yourself a good model to look at, something that you want to copy. Look at it, study it, try to get something that you can kind of put it into a scale for you. For me, when I was working on the Stug, it was a road wheel. Get yourself some styrene. This is, again, your evergreen scale styrene. All you're going to want to do is you're going to want to basically start out, let's assume that I don't have these yet, assume I haven't made these yet. We're going to want to start out with just your kind of basic idea. So we're going to pull out a road wheel here. In this case, it's going to be this one. You're going to have to kind of look and get yourself a good idea about what you think might be a good size. And then you're just going to basically start by cutting some styrene. I'm just kind of eyeing it. I like to use a factory edge as much as I can, but we're just going to cut, say, I don't know, that. And we're going to cut about there. We're going to say, okay, this is obviously too big, but you kind of get the idea. Then we can actually compare it and go, it's a little big. I'm going to take, a little bit off there. So then we take a little bit more off there. And then when we get a size that we think is about right, actually, let me see, is this? Yeah, see, it's about where it is. Then we just start filing it down. So we can do this and we can use that like that. Or if we want to get really, really harsh with it, we can grab some emery board. Remember the emery board? We can use that. And that actually will flatten it out a lot faster. Once you kind of have a base for your box, once your edges are all nicely squared off, you're going to want to then go ahead and start kind of piecing together how tall you want the box. Because notice, this is actually a combination of the base, side walls, and then it's got a little bit of reinforcing strips across the bottom because it looks like that's how it was built when I was looking at pictures online. And then, of course, it has the end pieces. And those are all just styrene pieces, guys. That's all it is, just styrene. The entrance there. So we could just use this. Again, a straight edge. Good to have a straight edge. And we could just press some pressure on there. Score it. Make a couple of scores. And then you can actually, kind of like drywall, you can actually just snap it. See, you can actually just snap that right clean off. You got your side. Now, all you got to do is just start assembling some stuff, you know? Really, that's all it is. It's taking styrene and it's slicing it into different sized pieces. And those pieces you can then assemble into something that looks like that. Now let's talk a little bit about how to make thicker stuff with this. Now you can actually glue this together. If you guys have watched my 105 Thunder Chief build, you know that I actually sandwiched like 4 or 5 pieces of this styrene together. You can do that just as easily. And then you just cut what you need out of it and sand it down. A little bit of plastic welder, a little bit of Tamiya extra thin. You'll be looking good. You'll be looking great. So basically the idea here behind scratch building is to take just pieces of styrene and kind of use your imagination, use some patience. Got to have patience with yourself, guys. You might have to make a couple different ones before you get one that looks right to you, that you really, really like. Same way when I make chairs or anything like that for a cockpit. If I make one and it doesn't look quite right, I don't use it. I wait until I make another one, or I use it as a base of learning experience. Just go, I shouldn't have done that, or I'm going to do this instead. Try out different things. Don't worry too much about it, because this is all scratch. This is scratch building. It's difficult to really give you a full tutorial about how to do something like, say, an ammo box or an ammunition bay, you know, or a pylon, something like that. It's difficult to do because I kind of just come up with these on my own. I kind of look through pictures and I think, I don't have that. I'd like to have that. I don't want to spend $35 for a detailing set. I'm going to scratch build it. And then that's kind of what you do. Then you just kind of sit down, you figure out how to do it. You look at pictures, you look at ideas, you look at other kits. So that's kind of a look, guys, just a real quick shot, a real quick look at how you scratch build stuff. A very quick look at it. Really appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you back here soon on the next Ben Build tutorial.